Aloha and welcome to our video on natural selection. In the video today we're going to define what artificial selection is and then we'll go over what natural selection is. Okay, so let's begin with a talk real quickly about artificial selection. Artificial selection is exactly what it sounds like, artificial or man-made selection. And the prime example for this one is if we take an ancestral wild dog, what we've been able to do is by selectively choosing which puppies we breed, we've been able to come up with different breeds of dogs. And that's kind of how the system works. And what we're doing is instead of nature making the selective choice, we're doing that. So if we wanted a little dog, we would breed the little ones together until we have the traits that we're looking for. Now, we don't only do that with dogs, we do that with cats, we've done it with other farm animals, so we can also do it with plants. If you take a look down here, we have a wild mustard. And that wild mustard plant, what we were able to do, like Mendel did, is cross-pollinate it. And from that wild mustard, we were able to get a whole bunch of different types of plants coming from it, from cauliflower and broccoli to cabbage and kale, and even down to kohlrabi. So you can see that what we've been able to do is take one plant, and by picking the traits we wanted to accentuate, that's our selection part here, we were able to determine what we were making from that. Okay, so now let's talk about natural selection. In natural selection, nature is the one that's selecting or choosing which traits are going to be more advantageous. So nature plays a role in that whichever traits it chooses, that's those individuals that possess those traits are going to be better apt to survive. And then being better apt to survive, they will have a better chance of reproduction. Now, natural selection has four different parts. The first part here is what we call overproduction, and that means that organisms produce more offspring that can survive. So by having more children out there, more offspring out there, the ones that can survive will, the ones that don't survive, well, okay. But it's producing way too many kids. Now, in that population, there's going to be a variety of traits. So these traits are going to be recorded in the alleles, and those alleles are passed on in the DNA from parent to offspring, generation to generation. But you have to have a variety of things for nature to select against. If everything was exactly the same and you change the environment against it, nothing would be able to change and they would all go extinct. So you have to have some underlying variety in the population. Now, the individuals with the alleles that are best suited are most likely to survive. So that means that as nature's applying its pressure, those that have the traits that make it so it adapts better, those are the ones that are going to survive. They're going to be a little more healthy. Because they're able to survive longer and because they're healthier, then they have the better chance of reproduction. And when they reproduce and they overproduce, their offspring will have the same traits. And that's how we see this choosing of that trait that fits in a little better. And that can be the driving force for evolution. So over time, we're seeing that the gene pool of the population is going to change. Right? And that's what natural selection does. It picks some of the traits out of the variety of options, and whichever ones are better suited to survive, those are the ones that are going to reproduce more, and that's how we see that gene flow. Okay, so let's take a really quick example of this one. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look here at a beetle population. Now, the beetle population has two different variants, so there's a little bit of variety here. We can have either a green beetle or we can have a brown beetle. Okay, so in the alleles, and that's what this heredity part is showing me, is we can look and see that we can have a homozygous green, we can have a homozygous brown, or we can have heterozygous, and what we see is that the brown variety is going to be the dominant variety. Okay, so now when we have these offspring and they hatch and they're like living on the trees, we notice our predator here, and our predator is going to be able to see the green ones and they'll feed on that one a little bit easier. And that'll leave these brown ones. So nature, in the form of the bird, is selecting for the brown coloration because that blends in better. So even though these brown ones may be either homozygous or heterozygous, because of that, we don't lose the green in the population, but the greens aren't going to have a better chance of reproducing. So that's how natural selection works. Nature's going to make a choice, and the individuals that are able to survive a little bit better, those are the ones that are going to reproduce, and that's how we can see a shift in the population. Okay, so one more example and then we'll be done for the day. So first of all, remember we had the overproduction. So we have a grasshopper that's going to lay 200 eggs here, okay? And not all of them are going to survive, but it's going to produce too many. Remember that was overpopulation. Then we have this variation in the population, and you can see that we have a light brown tan colored variant, and we also have a green variant here. Nature's going to come in and survival of the fittest happens. And once again, it's going to pick the one that doesn't blend in well. So all of these brown ones are going to be chosen or selected against. So the green one is the fittest. It has that adaptation that allows it to survive, which means the green ones are going to have a better chance at reproduction. And that's why we see a population that'll over time turn more and more green. But because we don't lose the other variation in case something happens to the population, it can survive if need be, if there's a dramatic change. Okay, so that's what natural selection is. As always, you'll get to go through the lessons and pick it up in a little more detail, but I wanted you to kind of understand what it is. Good luck on the lessons, and as always, we'll see you in the next video.